What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is JV here, and today I'm going to talk about the Sinking City 2. I recently got this game basically a day earlier before its initial release for tomorrow of August 18th of 2026. And the reason for this is because I really want to get to know what this game is all about. I want to understand the mechanics, the core systems of it, and more appropriately, the story. I would have to say, so far, the story in this game is pretty freaking good. But what I really love about this game, rather than from the first one, which is also known as The Sinking City, you can get that on Xbox, PC, or on PlayStation as the remastered version for PS5 as well. So, anyways, what I really want to talk about here is this game is more of a psychological horror rather than its initial previous game called The Sinking City, obviously. The first one was more of a detective story. It was more psychological. It was a little bit less psychological, but a little bit more of it at the same time. It was a little mix and match, of course. But again, Frogwares that made The Sinking City 2, which is the sequel to the original, obviously, they lean more towards into the psychological effect. And when it comes to that psychological effect, you have the horror vibe to it, but you still have that Cthulhu type of style to it as well, much like the first one. I love the second one a little bit better than I do with the first one, specifically because I was having one heck of a time to really just trying to adjust of getting into that detective mind, especially in the first one, because I've known to really like those types of games, much like a game called Murdered Soul Suspect, which I believe came out in 2013. But either or, I think what makes The Sinking City 2 so much better than the first one is that while you can still do some detective work, but it's optional. You don't have to do it, which is nice, but I have done it, and it's very intriguing. I really like the way how it works, but I'm not going to dive into that. I want to dive more into this game to where how this game really influences other type of Cthulhu type of games, much like Call of Cthulhu back in 2014, I believe 2014 or 2015, but that's besides the point, okay? Which was another game that was excellent, by the way. But either or, I think what really makes The Sinking City 2 so unique, not just having the optional breakdowns of, detective work, it's, like I said again, it's leaning more towards the psychological effect of the game. And it's giving you the idea that it's more like Resident Evil because you have to maintain your equipment a little bit. Not really repair, but you really have to maintain your inventory space because hence the Resident Evil type of vibe to it, which is awesome, by the way, because I think that's another thing that really makes this really good. Now, when it comes to other Resident Evil things in this game, particularly I would say from Resident Evil 4 specifically, other than maybe Resident Evil 9 Requiem, is that you have to create your healing salves, or basically your healing bombs to heal yourself, or you can create your own ammunition by discovering certain things in the world, like materials and resources, as it were, in order to really maintain your survivability. That's what I was trying to say. So that's another thing what I'm really glad of what Frogwares was able to do with this game, is because there are so many games out there of this type of ilk, basically in a genre, as it were, into how it really gives you that really good psychological vibe, and how it really gives you a jump scare. Because there are times so far in this game that I have played so far to where I have jumped. And, but again, I would say, while it is a little bit of a scarier game than from the first one, but it's not as scary as other games that I have played, especially like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is played in a first-person perspective. But again, though, that's where The Sinking City 2 really provides that aura, basically in a way to where you're playing in third person, you have to aim at certain parts of the enemy's bodies in order to really bring them down, and it has some of that Dead Space effect and vibe as well. By being able to know where you have to aim on certain parts of the enemies like I said again, to bring them down. And I love that. And that's another thing, though, too, is that this game does reward you to a certain degree to when you find like a certain chest, as I previously did before I started making this video. There's this pen that you obtain as you go through a certain part in the game to where you meet somebody, and he is going to help you decode a book. That's all I will say. No spoilers here. And so, again, once you acquire this certain type of pen, you can go back and find out where that chest was, and you can use that pen to open that chest, and you're able to actually use there's like a muzzle brake of sorts that you can attach to your weapon to make it much more effective. And it's good. I really love that. And I haven't used it yet, but again, I think that's where, when it comes to the Sinking City 2, this game checks all the boxes out for me. It does. Psychological horror, third-person shooter, Cthulhu-esque, much like from the first one, and even from the other games that I have played in this type of universe, much like Call of Cthulhu from 2014. And so, again, I love these types of games. I love it that there's a lot of creativity involved, and that's what I love about games like this, though, too, is that there's creativity. And I think that's the most important. And I will say, like I said, again, when I played the first one, I have not completed it all the way through, but I am like at least maybe about halfway at least, and I really like it. But for the most part, it was hard to do because of the detective work, and it's hard to really get into that detective mind. So again, though, with the Sinking City 2, it's so much better in so many regards because it went towards its more psychological horror than anything else. And I'm going to say one thing. Does it fit perfectly for the Sinking City 2? Yes, it does. I really think it does because, more appropriately, I love more psychological horror third-person shooters or even first-person shooters, because so that way it just gives you an idea to how a game like this, or even much like a game called Fear back in the day. And that kind of brings me back a little bit to how this game utilizes that in a very third-person type of way. And I think that's really good, in my own personal opinion. But like I said again, it's only my personal opinion. So all I can say is this, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a Resident Evil lover, if you are a Silent Hill lover, if you are a Dead Space lover, much like the remake or the original Dead Space, I do actually highly recommend playing the Sinking City 2. This is not a review. This is my own personal opinion or recommendation or suggestion on this game, because for me as a gamer, it really takes a lot for me to not just like games, but like games of this type of nature, because it's so hard to get invested in the games to where it's like, do I like it? Do I like it? Do I not like it? And this game, like I said again, it just checks all the boxes. So, anyways, too much for ado, ladies and gentlemen. Any comments or questions, you know what to do. Put them in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next upload. See you guys.